Now I'm going to demonstrate one way that I make twisted cane for a lot of my head pin designs, and I have done it quite a few different ways. One of my favorite ways is to do it like Heather Trimlett does, and if you haven't gotten her tutorial or taken her class about twisties, I highly recommend it. I'm going to show you a different way today. These are some of the twisties that I recently made for some of my designs. Some of them are simple two-color designs like this that aren't encased. Some of them are encased in clear. Some of them have more than two colors. But I'm going to show you one way to make them, and I'm going to demonstrate it in black and white just for fun. So when I make twisted cane, I use mandrels as punties instead of glass. I like the metal, it's sturdy. And these are just welding rods. I actually got them from Dana Scudder when she taught her 3D flower murini class here. She very kindly gave the entire class a set of these mandrels. She pounded the end of them and drilled a hole in them so that if you're doing a big gather, her gathers for her 3D murini are quite large because she makes a lot of cane and it's very detailed. But so when it comes time to pull that cane out, it's often the case that she needs to pull it farther away than her arms can reach, or perhaps she's alone and there's nobody there to help her. If you have some kind of a nail or a pin on your bench, you can put this hole over that nail and pull cane by yourself. You just let go of one of the handles, one of the punties, latch it on that nail, and then grab the other one and go across the room. So it works quite well. Anyway, I love these punties. They are just stainless steel from the welding store. I generally turn my flame up as high as I can get it. This is just a minor, and it doesn't get super hot because it's on household propane, which is not at a high enough pressure to get really large. It's on household appliance pressure. Anyway, I use regular black most of the time for these twists, and I do like Creation is Messy Peace for the white. It's a thicker white than Effetre white, so when I can get it, I like to stock up. And what I'm going to do first is make a little bit of encased white cane so that when I make these twists and heat them, the black and the white don't get smeared together. Another reason for encasing the white is that if you're going to add any kind of reduction glass to your final design, I'm famous or infamous for using a lot of iris gold decoration on some of my designs. Okay, many of my designs. Okay, most of my designs. And it can leave a gold fume that's not very attractive on the white if the white isn't encased. So this will take care of that. If you've ever had a problem with your whites looking dingy, that might be what's going on if you're using anything that reduces. So I'm just going to make a little bit of encased cane to go into the black and white twist. You notice I'm holding my white almost parallel to my flame, and that is a nifty trick for pre-softening the rod before it becomes molten enough to apply to your gather, as opposed to coming at it in a perpendicular way. This is probably enough for the little bit of cane that I'll need for this demo. I want to burn that off and get this into a nice cylinder shape. I'm not going to have to do this to the black because the black, number one, is already a transparent, and number two, if the white is protected, they're not going to smear together when they get heated. There'll be this barrier of clear in there. All right, I need to let that firm up a little bit. Another thing that I do is to snip off the ends of my clear. I also clean it, as Heather recommends in her teachings. There's a lot of nasty stuff on the surface of the glass and in the little pits at the cut ends, and as clean as you can get it. This is just regular old Effetre clear, and it works perfectly well for, I would say, 95% of the things I make. I don't do a lot of heavy encasing in my work, but when I do, I like to use the double helix clears. But for everything else I do, this works great. Clear that's cheap clear that's been cleaned. So I'm going to do a thin encasing. Just work down the length like that. Overlap just a little and push to get rid of any air bubbles. So my white cylinder is not in the flame, so it's not getting floppy. That would make this a whole lot more challenging if it were. And you see, this clear, again, is almost parallel to the white, and that's how you get a super thin amount of glass on the surface. I'm just pushing it, so there's not a lot of excess that gets applied there. All right, a quick cap on the ends. Make sure there's no white sneaking through. When I pull this out, I'm going to pull it out thick because it's going to be applied as an element to another bit of cane, and I want it to have some mass to it. So it's not going to get a whole lot longer, but a bit. I'm applying heat to the end where I'm going to put the punty. I got the punty glowing before I touched it down there. I'm turning the punties. All right. Pulling this out just very gently. Trying not to twist. It's twisting a bit. That's interesting. Didn't intend for that to happen. So this is enough for me to make a black and white twist. I may have to do that on purpose sometime. Kind of like it. It's the clear making a ribbon-like effect. Hold that thought for later. Okay, I'm off camera getting my nippers. Oh, can't quite reach them. I'm tethered to my setup with my earphones. It really helps the sound quality. All right, cut that end off. And you know what? I'm going to leave this handle on there for now. Actually, I'm going to stick it in the kiln until I get ready to apply it. Now I need to get this trash off the end. Dunking in water. All right, that's cleaned off, and I'm going to heat it up again and heat up this rod of black. This is just regular old Effetre black. If you want to get fancy, you can use tuxedo. There's no need to use the fancy Reichenbach deep black unless you're sitting on hordes of that and want to get rid of it, in which case I suggest you send it directly to me. That stuff is handy if you want a really dense black. There are so many ways to make twists. It's a really good skill to practice and get good at, because adding twists to your designs just is one more step that makes your creations more uniquely yours. And they are a level of difficulty higher than not using them. And people seem to appreciate that. This is a pretty thin rod. It wouldn't surprise me if I used the whole thing. I'm rotating both the punty in my left hand and the rod of glass in my right hand. But I'm going to burn it off now because I think this is probably enough to get the amount of twisted cane I'm going to need just for this demo anyway. So I'm going to just even this out a little bit into a cylinder shape. And then I'm going to flatten one side. What I'm going for is something that looks like half a cylinder, because I want to leave room for the white on this side. So it's approximately even in thickness all around, except for it's flattened on one side. So now I'm going to grab this white from the kiln, flash that in there. The kiln is not quite the same temperature as the flame, it's cooler. And I'm preparing that flat side for the application of this white part. Now I'm heating just one side of the white, and I'm going to touch it on there so they fuse, and I'm going for my cutters. See if I can get this in the frame. I'm leaving a little bit on the end in order to have some to go over this end. And I'm leaving an extra amount there in order to touch it to the mandrel. You always want to attach all of your colors to both ends of your gather if you're going to do a twist. That way they twist more evenly. Bending this down. All right. Now I need to get that bit off of my other handle. There. And clean it off because I'm going to need both of these for the twist and the pull. It doesn't have to be super clean because it's the same colors. All right. I want to heat and melt in the black to the white. Get it nice and gooey. Get the mandrel, the punty in my right hand nice and glowing, and touch it on there. Wiggle it all around, and I'm ready to start heating. Again, I've made this probably a third or a quarter of the normal size I do, just so that I can pull it out within the frame of the camera. Normally I heat up my gather, and when it's time to pull, I pop up from my chair and go stand in the middle of the room and pull it out. I don't know, something about having that much molten glass over my lap makes me a little anxious. But for this, I thought a small quantity would be best. So I'm heating this from all different angles, turning the right punty and the left punty at the same rate and in the same direction so that I don't get any premature twisting going on. I'm just trying to get this all molten in a football shape. And it's looking like it's pretty evenly heated and juicy, so I'm going to take it out of the flame, pull it a little bit, just a bit. I'm letting it cool and getting a skin on it. And I'm turning to the right with my right hand and turning to the left with my left hand. And I'm just barely pulling them apart as I twist. Now I'm pulling harder and twisting faster because it's starting to set up. So I'm done twisting, and you notice it's not 100% even from left to right, but there are enough large sections of uniformly twisted cane that this will work fine for my head pin designs. So I'm going to liberate it from here. Oh, and also you notice because I gave so much heat to the ends, there's not these unusable thick ends. There is a little bit of a graduation in size, but it's not huge. And then I'll cut the other part off, and that needs to cool down. I don't typically put these in the kiln to anneal. You can if you want, but definitely do them in advance of you needing them so that they have a chance to cool before you grab them. So that's the twist.